Now, the Russian President Vladimir Putin is all set to visit India on the 4th of December. The visit underlines the importance of the strong Russia-India ties which date back to India's pre-independence days. It's a partnership that's been forged through decades of mutual trust. Our next point gets you more details.
The India-Russia bond is no ordinary partnership. It's a relationship that predates India's independence, rooted in history, tested by war, and strengthened by trust. The two countries established diplomatic relations in April 1947. A newly independent India was eager to start afresh. Over 2 centuries of colonial exploitation had left the Indian economy in tatters. A deep distrust of imperial powers meant that India looked to the then Soviet Union during its quest for self-sufficiency. The Soviets reciprocated with support for India's heavy industries. Moscow helped New Delhi set up steel plants in Bhilai and Bokaro. Investments in mining and energy followed. On both occasions, the Soviets stepped in after India's negotiations with the West fell through. The ties took a dramatic turn after the Indo-China War in 1962. New Delhi looked to the West for advanced weaponry, but both the US and the UK offered a cold shoulder. Once again, the Soviet Union stepped in, laying the foundations for Indo-Soviet military cooperation. 3 years later, the West again refused to come to India's aid when it fought a war with Pakistan. Instead, it put an arms embargo on India. This reinforced New Delhi's belief that it could not depend on Western arms supplies. The Soviet Union came to India's rescue. It gave New Delhi a license to manufacture the MiG-21 fighter jet, a technology transfer that it had even denied to China. Sukhoi and MiG-23 jets followed soon after. The Soviet Union also played a mediating role. It hosted the Tashkent summit in 1966, where a peace agreement was signed between India and Pakistan. Moscow also looked after India on the global stage. Between 1957 and 1971, it used its veto half a dozen times in the United Nations Security Council to support India on the issue of Kashmir. But the watershed moment in the relationship came in 1971. Months before war raged in what was soon to become Bangladesh, India and the Soviet Union signed the Treaty of Peace, Friendship and Cooperation. It was soon put to the test when the US deployed its 7th Fleet to the Bay of Bengal. The idea was to intimidate India and tilt the war in Pakistan's favor. But Washington was outfoxed by Moscow. The Soviet Union deployed its nuclear-armed naval fleet, forcing the US to back down. With external threats neutralized, India went for the kill and achieved a decisive victory. The war cemented the Soviet Union's defense ties with India, and since then, both sides haven't looked back. The relationship continued to prosper even after the fall of the Soviet Union. At the turn of the millennium, New Delhi and Moscow elevated their ties to a strategic partnership. 10 years later, this was elevated to a special and privileged strategic partnership. Today, India-Russia ties span across defense, science, technology, culture, and people-to-people connections. Bilateral trade hit a record $65.7 billion in 2023-24. The two sides have set a target of $100 billion by 2030. Russia is also India's top arms supplier, accounting for over 1/3 of India's total arms imports. Russian weaponry was put to the test during India's Operation Sindoor. Russia's S-400 air defense systems repelled attacks from Pakistan, handing India an undeniable edge. In a world where alliances shift like sand, India and Russia stand as constants. Partners forged not by convenience, but by decades of trust and shared triumphs. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.